Welcome everyone back to youtube.com/Ryan's Vedic Astrology. I'm here again with Fiona McGlynn, a year 3 astrological apprentice from AshevilleVedicAstrology.com. And we're continuing with our series on the planets for each ascendant. And today we're going to be considering the moon for a Scorpio ascendant. So welcome, Fiona. It's great to have you.
Thank you, Ryan. It's great to be here too.
Okay, so the moon. What can you tell us about the moon? Where would you like to start in our exploration of the moon for a Scorpio ascendant?
Well, the moon's in this lovely position, isn't it, of being in the 9th house. So, and that's a lovely match. You know, the moon is this karaka for part of our soul or part of our life journey, and it's an ascendant by itself sometimes, you know, so it's a core part of who we are. And here it is in the 9th house of purpose and meaning. So it's a really happy fit. As always, the moon has no second house that it's ruling, so it's only concentrating on this one energy. And then that would mean that the moon is debilitated in Scorpio, the 1st house for the Scorpio ascendant, and exalted in the 8th house of Taurus. Sorry? 7th house. 7th house. Yes, you're right. 7th house. Thank you.
Yeah, that's what we've been building up to with these last 3 videos, right?
Yes, exactly. Yeah.
It's easy to do. I completely understand.
Yeah. You were going to say, tell me your thoughts about the moon and the 9th house.
Oh, well, you know, as we've been talking about when we even began with Venus for a Scorpio ascendant, that there is this emphasis towards supporting the dharma of partners and other people, rather than sort of tapping into a lot of selfishness that people often experience with a Scorpio ascendant. And so by having the ninth Lord exalted in the 7th house, again shows us that it's, no matter where the moon is, it's primarily the Scorpio's duty to support, to be dharmic in their support of their partner.
Yes.
And when we have the moon debilitated, it goes debilitated in the 1st house. So that's showing that when a person becomes too selfish, too focused on what they think is right, on their own particular ideas and ideals of dharma, they're not really fulfilling the most accurate role of the moon for a Scorpio ascendant. So it just contributes more to this idea, as we saw with both Mercury and with Venus for a Scorpio ascendant, this emphasis away from selfishness and this emphasis towards supporting the dharma of others, you know, being a part of other people's dharma, to be like a pillar for them, really.
Yeah. I agree. It really aligns well with what we were speaking about with Venus.
And when we think about a Scorpio ascendant, you know, the moon rules a water sign as well.
Yep.
It's in a trine from Scorpio. Yes. And the moon itself, what is one of the things that makes people so popular with the moon is, again, the moon's ability to be in tune. The moon is the queen of the astrological court. And it is the queen's duty to be in tune with the needs, the emotional needs of the kingdom, right? So again, here we see the Scorpio ascendant, the one that we always think about as trying to be away from everyone else, you know, kind of focusing on their own thing, being mysterious. And that's not really what Scorpio is meant to be all about at all.
We're redesigning Scorpio right here. It starts today.
Well, I wouldn't say we're redesigning Scorpio. What I would say, I mean, this just kind of goes back to the thing that I harp on a lot in this channel, which is using the example of Mars. And everyone's saying, you know, Mars is strong when Mars is macho, when Mars is doing what it needs to do, when it's going out and not listening to anyone else and it's doing its own thing. We say that's a strong Mars, or Mars is aggressive. That's a strong Mars. It's not true. Mars is the soldier. I said this over and over again. Mars is the soldier that really just wants to go take care of his land and take care of his family, but will fight when he needs to. He's not going out looking for a fight. That is a Mars that is imbalanced, that does not have a sense of peace within itself, right? Just like if you take the Myth and Magic of Vedic Astrology course, that downloadable course at AshevilleVedicAstrology.com, the myth around Mars is this idea of Narasimha, that man, lion, god, who once a problem is taken care of becomes peaceful again, right?
Yes.
Once the demon is vanquished, becomes peaceful. Not Narasimha is not going out and just beating people up. That's an imbalanced Mars. So I wouldn't say that we are redesigning Scorpio. I think what we're showing is the underlying blueprint of a very healthy, integrated Scorpio. That's the way I.
Yeah, yeah. And it's very tempting when we hear, I don't want to muddy the waters too much, but to see that Jupiter is exalted in this moon space that we're talking about. We already mentioned Jupiter, but so we can see that there's something here about that queen energy, that feminine energy, that dharmic life, and having a real link back to Jupiter, which is over there ruling that 5th house, because you mentioned that Cancer is on a trine from the Scorpio Ascendant, and there's Jupiter in the 5th over there, and would be exalted here in Cancer as well. So this is really a very profoundly philosophical, deeply spiritual energy as well.
Well, and if we go way back to when we were looking at in the apprenticeship program, we were in year 1, and we were looking, let's see, was it the Rashis and Signs? Yeah, the Rashis and Signs class, class 1, year 1 of that course. When we look at sign 8, going by the numerology, Scorpio, that's about developing that inner sense of psychological well-being such that you can handle 8th house things, which are sudden breaks and changes.
Yes.
We think about someone being psychologically healthy who is happy and smiling. Yes, that's true. But the psychologically healthy person can remain in a sense of contentment and poise and strength, and knowing that they can handle the breaks and changes as they come, which is what life is all about. And then once a person develops that inner strength, which is again the key of Scorpio, then they're able to move into what? Sign 9, which is Sagittarius, which is that house, or excuse me, that sign related to supporting one's culture, going beyond one's personal needs, kind of living and being for the grander scheme of things. So it makes sense that for a Scorpio ascendant, Jupiter is the 5th house lord, Moon is the 9th house lord, and we know when we have Jupiter and Moon combinations coming together, the person has the capacity to see the bigger picture, to remain in tune with their emotions, and to remain in tune with the emotional needs of others, while still remaining true to a sense of dharma and not just their own personal or selfish desires, but that of everyone around them too. They see everyone around them as part of the whole. So it's when you start to tie all this together, the planets for the ascendant, as well as the numerology of each ascendant number, I mean, it really starts to show you what the sign is really all about.
Yeah, and this is a beautiful sign that we're talking about with Scorpio, just what you've tied in there, the 1, the 5, the 9, helping the person get through this 8th, the 8, right. The number 8 experience. Yeah. Right,
and who do you want to go see? Like, if we think about sign 9 and even Jupiter as being like the counselor or the minister or the guide or the teacher, who do you want to go see? Do you want to go see the guide or the teacher that has very little life experience, that has never been through anything difficult, and listen to him spout out all these platitudes or aphorisms like, oh, well, God only gives you things that you can handle. Oh, well, it'll be all right. This is all God's plan. Do you want that, someone who's never really experienced difficulty, or do you want someone who's gone through the crap of the psychological transformation, breaks and changes of the 8th house, that came out the other end and really has a sense of faith, which is the 9th house, which is not dependent upon beliefs that are, just things that they've heard, nothing that they've lived through or experienced. You don't want that, right?
No, of course you want the real deal.
Right.
You want it to be authentic. Yeah.
So that shows us why, this is a silly kind of metaphor, but maybe some of you are Lord of the Rings fans. But in the whole Lord of the Rings mythology, if you remember, we have these things called orcs, which are really nasty, evil creatures. But early on in that mythology, the orcs weren't as they're portrayed in the movies. In the early writings, they were simply called people of hate.
Mm-hmm.
And they were, a lot of them came from elves, which were good beings that were twisted because of fear and because of anger and lust and these sorts of things. And so what we typically see for a Scorpio ascendant that's projected or made to seem popular is essentially the twisted version of it.
Yeah.
It's the orcish version of Scorpio that we tend to read about and think about in modern culture, when really it's a very powerful divine sign. It's the transition point, going from selfishness of Aries all the way up to the complete surrender and liberation of Pisces. It's a very important sign that people, I think, need to rethink quite a bit.
Yeah, well, I'm glad that we've been able to cover that kind of territory. It's inspiring, and yeah, I hope people can follow the journey that we've been on in this conversation.
Yeah. So anyway, let's go ahead and, unless there's anything else that I missed, is there anything we should talk about? No? Okay.
No, that was all good.
Well, let's go ahead and conclude there related to the moon for a Scorpio ascendant. And then we'll move on to the final the final planet for Scorpio in this series, which is the sun for Scorpio ascendant. So thank you for being here.
See you there, Ryan.
Yep, will do.